I'm just going to start us off by sharing a little idea. There's a great commercial that aired, I don't know, I guess it was a couple years ago at this point, for Southwest Airlines. And it's a dark room. It's like a control center for an army, and the threat is getting really intense. So they turn to the commander in the back of the room, and the whole audience tells the commander and says, "We need your password. We need your password now. It's an emergency. There's been a security breach." So the commander says, "You need my password?" And we're like, "Yes, just give us your password." So they type it in. He's like, one word at a time, one letter. It goes on the big screen in the front of the room. And the commander says, IHATEMYJOB1. I hate my job 1. And the whole audience, the whole command center sees the commander's password is I hate my job 1. And they all turn to him in disappointment. "How can you hate your job?" And then it flashes on the screen, "Want to get away?" So, of course, it's a Southwest Airlines commercial. I don't know if you've ever had this feeling. I bet you might have had something like this, where it's an embarrassing moment happens, or a situation where you really just hate the situation you're in. So the natural thing is, let me get away. I studied hospitality in college at University of Central Florida. We specialized in theme parks, Disney, and vacations on the beach. So I grew up understanding this, and I really opted in to major in taking care of your escape from your stressful life. Who here wants to describe what their perfect vacation idea is? Just some features. Just throw them out. Just call it out. What? Maldives. Okay, Maldives. Yeah, so like beaches. Yeah, hammocks. What else? Forest. Nice. What'd you say? Learning Gemara with my wife. That's it. All right. That is an escape. Beautiful. Shopping. Nice. What'd you say? Free time after accomplishment, like a celebration. That's not an escape. That's an earned win, vacation. I like it. Yeah. Some Xanax. That sounds like an ideal vacation. Yeah. So I'll just tell you the way I grew up. I grew up thinking that the perfect vacation was like a cruise ship, but on land. Because then you have access to a little bit more, and you have access, like you get to this hotel, and you're gonna go to the first place you're gonna go to is grab a great pina colada, sit at the beach, and sip it, nice and relaxing, no worries at all, as all the songs say, not a worry in the world, and just chill. And I thought that was like the perfect vacation. And then I got to college and I learned theme parks are really cool. And we learned that Disney kind of designs their parks so that you can't even see any of the outside world. It's designed, the whole industry is designed to transport you out of your stressful life and into this fantasy relaxation environment. It's an ambiance. And it's really, really nice. But what's happening there? If anything goes wrong, all of your attention shifts to me behind the front desk. How could you let my room not be made on time? My bed was a little bit messy. There was a fingernail on the floor. These things happened way too often, and it's disgusting. And all of a sudden, anything goes wrong, it's on me to fix it. That's my job. Because on a vacation, you don't want to have to worry about anything. Those are your problems. They're supposed to be all the way back home waiting for you. On vacation, you're supposed to be escaped. You're supposed to be free and serene. So it's a nice mindset. It gets you away until something goes wrong. My favorite thing, though, on a vacation is the alarm clock, the wake-up call. There's nothing that says that you've really left your brain at home more than having to have a front desk agent call you in the morning at whatever time you say you need them to wake you up. Do you have a cell phone? Something? Anything? How do you wake up at home? So I think that there's a lot of these things that you'd experience almost daily at the hotel, where people just leave their mind at home, and all of a sudden, it's your fault. But what happens when they go home? What happens after their vacation, after this crazy experience? The problems are still there, and they're so much less equipped to handle them because their mind is still in Jamaica. I don't know if anyone watches The Office, but there's a yeah, all right, who's an Office fan? I think it's my favorite TV show. It's great. There's a scene when he comes back from Jamaica, and he's got a braid in his hair, I think, and he's just still in the Jamaican mindset, playing the steel drums, but then things go wrong at the office, and he's just not equipped to handle the problems. That's actually what happens in almost all of our minds when we go back after a vacation, after an escape. Because we tried to run away from the problems, things went wrong, we had to compensate, and by the way, here's a secret of the hospitality industry. Americans are super easy to appease. All we have to do is buy them a drink from the bar, and they're taken care of. For Europeans, you also have to give them breakfast. Now, there's another secret: chocolate-covered strawberries. I don't know if you've ever had a complaint. You've gone back to your room, and there they are, right on your bed. Hey, we are so sorry for the inconvenience. Enjoy these chocolate-covered strawberries as a token of our appreciation. I wrote hundreds of those letters, and I've given out hundreds of chocolate-covered strawberries. And it works like a charm. Like, okay, I should have had a free night, but the chocolate-covered strawberries show that they really care about me. I'm like a VIP. They're pretty good anyway. So the point is, when things go wrong, you have someone to blame, but then you go back and you're just not equipped to handle the stresses of real life. There is an alternative, and there's another way to vacation and to experience the world around you. When I was working in Vail, after college, I moved out to a ski town called in Vail, Colorado, which is a very nice upscale ski resort. And we had a guest named Hank. Hank is an older man. He's like in his 50s, not so old, but he's been coming to Vail for the last 25 years with his buddies. And he comes to the check-in desk and he says, hey, every year one of us has a major injury or gets hurt. Hopefully this year no one will get hurt. Last year was Dan. Dan broke his leg. I'm like, oh, all right. We've seen it before, and every group has a story. But every year these guys just come back and they hang out and they're at Vail. I'm like, why do they keep coming back if they keep getting hurt? Someone's going to get hurt. So every day he'd walk by the front desk and Hank would hold up his 5 fingers or 10 fingers because we have 2 hands. And he would say, I'm still doing well. I'm like, good to see. And then on the final day of their 5-day ski trip, well, first of all, they all would hang out by the bar and they would just talk about the day and recollect on their memories. And I just loved hearing their stories. I've heard hundreds of stories like that. These guys just have unique moments on the mountain that change their lives, that are part of who they are. And every year it's the ski trip that brings them all together and keeps them connected. So on the final day, Hank didn't make it back. And Dan said, yeah, this year was Hank. About an hour later, I'm like, okay, the attitude is great. Hank walks in or rolls in on his wheelchair. He had torn his ACL. And he's like, all right, this year was me. What happened? He's like, well, I looked at a jump and my buddies dared me to go and send it. So I sent it, but I didn't land it. So he had done a jump that even I would not attempt, and he did not land it, tore his ACL, and sure enough, he was back a month later to recover and have the surgery for it at the Stedman Clinic. That's how it works. So he came back, and I'm like, okay, here he is. He's missing work. His address, by the way, was One World Trade Center, in our system. So he was doing something in New York. But I'm like, don't you miss New York? You live in the World Trade Center or something, or work there at least. And he's like, no, this is great. I get to eat all the food I want. I'm recovering in Vail, and my buddies are struggling. They're in New York, living the stresses of life, and I'm just here recovering. So he's just enjoying life, living in Vail, growing from his experience, healing. But here's the catch. A year later, his buddies came back. He's able to walk again. He got new skis, new boots. And the first day, his first run, was that jump. He said he's been thinking about it all year. He landed the jump that year with his new skis, his new equipment, and had an amazing stay. And that year, I don't even think anyone in their group got hurt, but I don't remember that for a fact. So the story of Hank, though, is the story of somebody who, instead of just running on an escape vacation, he went towards becoming himself and pushing his physical limits. And I think that's super inspiring. Because if a door jams on your finger at Disney, you sue them for $1 million, and you want Disney for life. But if you tear your ACL on a ski vacation, you're not looking to sue Vail. You're not looking to sue the ski town. You shouldn't have sent the jump, bro. You shouldn't have sent the jump. Yeah, tried that. It's on you. So that's the adventure mindset. The adventure mindset says, let me find out what's possible, what I don't know. I define adventure as the pursuit of discovering the unknown, finding out what's out there, what you're capable of, and what you don't know yet. The escape mindset is running away from something. In the end of an escape, you go right back to where you started. And here's the news. The journey to your highest self, the journey to your ultimate self is not a round trip. As much as we want to go back to the comfort zone that we had before, and we know what that is like, and we want to live in that realm of familiarity, going back there is not going to help us move towards our ultimate self. The journey to your ultimate self is not a round trip. The journey to your ultimate self is a directional pursuit of adventure, finding out what else is out there, what you don't know yet, what you're not seeing. And this is something that no matter what you're doing, it doesn't have to only be physical, like a physical activity in skiing. the idea of these adventures like skydiving, skiing as an adventure, that's like a superhero instead of just a hero. A real adventure is when you discover who you can be and you grow from that experience. Because at the finish line of every adventure is not the accomplishment itself, but it's a more improved and grown version of who you are. And it's getting you closer to who you're meant to be. So the real mission of an adventure and the real mission of the adventure of a lifetime is to discover the frontiers of your own consciousness. And here are 3 tips to help you do that I hope you can take home with you. These are going to be 3 mental tools that we already possess that we just have to unlock. Number 1 is curiosity. Be willing to find out what you don't know and explore and open up your mind with imagination and with curiosity to find out what's out there, what you're capable of, and what you can become. Number 2, adaptability. Because Rashi says there's no road without its windy portion. There's no such thing as just a straight and easy, predictable road. We want that, but that's an escape. That's a honeymoon. You get to the honeymoon phase and you go back. Most people do that. Most people go on a vacation, they have an amazing time, and then right before anything serious is going to happen, you go on a family reunion, and right before a serious discussion may come up and then everything can erupt, let's go back. Okay, that's the end of the vacation. But in real life, when you go over that cliff, when you send the jump, and you push yourself to those limits, you find out who you can become, and you work through those challenges. And it's not easy, but once you conquer the grind, you arrive at the destination, which is a higher perspective than where you started. And finally, the joys in the journey. Just have fun on the way, enjoy the ride, and it's not easy, but it's going to change you and it's going to transform you, and the growth comes from the challenges. So that's my thought. I really appreciate all of you coming out tonight, and I'm going to turn it over to Coach Ratner for more. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Brandon. That was great. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out here tonight. It's really exciting for me. This is our fifth time at Beer Bazaar. And we've obviously, we've done some dating and marriage, and this is a new concept. It's called Ignite Your Greatness. And the backdrop is going to be Hannukah. Hanukkah's coming up in a few weeks. And we all know the story of the oil, and that it lasted 8 days, and the oil for 1 day. But there's a deeper story here that we have to discuss, and this is going to be the basis for our talk. That the Greeks were attacking the Jews, and they were surrounding them, and there was a woman named Yehudis, we'll call her Yehudis, and she was going to try to make a surrender for the Jews. And so what she did is she would go to the camp, the general's camp, which was in Bethulia, and every day she would bring like a big bag of food, salty cheese, and food, and she'd go and she'd meet the general, and she'd be pretending to make a surrender for the Jews. And she'd go back and forth, and so because she was became so normal for him to go through the camp, the guards didn't check her or anything. So one day she goes to see the general. His name is Holofernes, and he was a very evil general. He was making the Jewish women, before they got married, come and spend some time with him, as you know what I'm talking about. And anyway, so she brought her salty cheese, and she fed the general the cheese, and it was very, very salty, and she gave him her wine. And the wine back then was very, very thick, and she gave him the wine because he was very, very thirsty. He drank lots of wine, and he passed out. And she took a tent peg, and she cut his head off. She took the head, she put it into a bag, and she walked out of the camp, and no one stopped her. She brought it to the Jewish people, to Maccabees, and she said, look, the deed is done. She took the head and showed them, and they were inspired to fight back. She took the head, brought it to the Greek camp, and they were completely despondent because their leader was dead. And this turned the tide of the Jewish people. This is why we're here today as Jews, because sometimes in life we just live on instinct. We're not willing to go beyond what we're capable of. Freud said we have something called the id. It's our inner part of us that lives on instinct. And Freud said that we all have an id, but our job in life is not to be an id Jew. It's to be a yid Jew, right? So greatness is inside each one of us, but we have to overcome our instincts. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use the acronym of the word great, and this is going to be the backdrop of our talk tonight. So the first letter of the word great stands for gratitude. When Yehudis went to the camp, she was the daughter of the Kohen Gadol. She obviously had a lot of gratitude. But what is really gratitude? I mean, people say all the time, I have gratitude. I have gratitude, right? But what is real gratitude? Real gratitude, I put it into 2 different levels. Level 1 is simple gratitude. You come to my house for Shabbat dinner. Appreciate it. You thank me because there's something to thank. There's someone to thank. But there are situations in your life where there is nobody to thank. For example, you're driving down the New Jersey Turnpike, and a car just swerves and almost hits you, and it crashes on the median, and you're like, whew, thank goodness, right? They're thankful, right? But who are you really thanking? There are many times in our life we have someone to thank, and there are many times in our life, like our boss or our wife or our kids, whatever, we thank them. But there are many times in life we have no one to thank. And having basically the 2.0 of gratitude, part 2 of gratitude, is being able to thank the creator of the world and being real with it. There's so I call it the 2 levels of gratitude. Level 1, most people have. We have gratitude. Level 2 is being real with who you're really thanking. It's not just, thank goodness or knock on wood or whatever other people say. Okay, there's a video I saw one time on Facebook of a dentist working with his client. And he says to the client, okay, I'm all done. And the client says back to the patient, oh, thank God. To the dentist, thank God. And the dentist says, thank God. Who thanks God? Who believes in God anymore? He goes, and the patient says, what do you mean? And the dentist says, what do you mean? How do you believe in God with all the war and crime and pestilence and disease going on in the world? How do you believe in God? And the patient says, well, I don't believe in dentists. He goes, what do you mean you don't believe in dentists? He goes, well, with all the gingivitis, gum disease, tooth decay, cavities, who believes in dentists anymore? And he says, well, what are you talking about? You have to have a relationship with me. You have to come see me on a regular basis, and you won't have those problems in your life. It's the same thing with God. You come see him on a regular basis, and you won't have those problems either. And that is what's called living with real gratitude. Because you want to have the kind of gratitude with an attitude at altitude. Having real gratitude with an attitude at altitude. And that's the ultimate kind of gratitude. Understanding that you're thanking the creator of the world for everything you have. And Yehudis had this. She also took responsibility. The word responsibility consists of 2 words. Response, ability. How you respond, your ability to respond is how you do in this world. A lot of people say, who's they? Like, who's they? You go into a place, you say, oh, they should do this. They should do this. They should fix this. They should make this class. They should make a better dinner. They should have better waiters. They should, paint this wall. Who's they? You're walking down the street, you see trash in front of your house, and you're like, they should clean this up. Now, of course, there are people who are responsible for it, like the city sanitation workers. There are people. But when you're saying who's they, what you're doing is you're just pawning off responsibility onto somebody else. It doesn't mean you are responsible, but the people that become great in the world, the people that become like Yehudis, who can kill the general with a tent peg, they're the ones that don't say who's they. They're the ones that take responsibility for something, even if it's not their responsibility. That's how you become great in life. Taking responsibility for something that's not even for you. So who's they? You're they. In my family, we have Shabbat dinners at our meals, and thank God, I have 5 children. And I'd like my kids to help clean up the table. It doesn't always happen. So what I do is I say to them, why doesn't every kid take 5 things off the dinner table and bring it to the kitchen? 5 things. Each kid take 5 things. And what I'm thinking is, if I tell them to clean the whole table, they're not going to do anything. So the one kid doesn't want to do anything. He does nothing. He doesn't take anything. Another kid says, you know what? I don't want to take 5 things. I'll take 2. Yeah, he's an okay person. First person, you can say a bad person or not doing the right thing. You don't want to call him a kid bad, but he's not doing the right thing. Second kid's okay. The third kid says, you know what? I'll take 5 things. I'm going to listen to my parents. He takes 5 things off the table, and he brings them to the kitchen. But you know who the great person is? The great person thinks, you know what? My parents are only asking us to take 5 things. But what they really want is they really want the whole table cleaned because they're asking us for 5. They know if they ask us for 5, we'll do it. But if we ask the whole thing, they won't do it. So one kid's going to say, you know what? I understand what my parents really want, and I'm going to clean the entire table. And that's where greatness comes in. Someone who takes responsibility for things that they don't even see. As Jews, we have a great responsibility. There's so few of us. If we don't help us, no one else is going to do it. It's not like you can rely on other countries to help us. We have to rely on ourselves. And it's hard to understand how small we are in number because when you say the word 13, 14, 15 million people, it doesn't really mean a lot. So let me explain to you how small a number we really are. In 2020, the Chinese government did a census of the country of China. And like any census, there's a margin of error. It's like when you have a poll for the presidential elections, and they show that the poll's 42 to 40, 44 to 40, it's 4% off, but there's a margin of error, 2%, which means it's still considered tied, right? Could it be 2% in any direction? The margin of error in the Chinese census was 2%, which you wouldn't think would be a big deal. But there's 1.4 billion Chinese people in China. So that means the margin of error in the Chinese census is 28 million people, which means there's twice as many people missing in China than there are Jews in the world. That's crazy. Think about that. That's kind of nuts. That we're half the margin of error of the Chinese census. You know, we posted some of our shorts. We have a lot of stuff on. Brandon and I have a podcast, Living in Clarity, and we post shorts on YouTube and TikTok. And the last few weeks, some of our TikToks have exploded. We have one that hit 300,000, one hit 500,000, the number of 100,000, one hit 1.7 million views just in the last week and a half. And unfortunately, there's a lot of anti-Semitic remarks. And in one of them it says, because I think we had a short that Brandon talked about how when you fly on an airline, when you go on the plane, you're not allowed to tip the flight attendants. So what he does, Brandon's suggestion, is you give him a bar of chocolate because they can take it, and then you'll get great service. And a number of comments, oh, Jews are cheap, Jews are cheap, Jews are cheap. I'm thinking to myself, go to any hospital, go to any performing arts center, go to any business school in America, and go look at the list of donors. My mother-in-law was in the hospital a number of years ago, and I was at Sibley Hospital. It was a suburban hospital in Bethesda, Maryland, and I looked on the donor board. There must have been 50 names, and I would say 48 of them are Jewish. Cheap? Are we cheap? Who do you think gives to it? Go to almost any performing arts center in every city is named after a Jewish person. So they're a little off on that. So even though we're small in number, we have to take care of ourselves because no one else is going to do it. Yehudis saw the need that she had to go kill this general and inspire the Jewish people. And that's really should be your goal, and to inspire people. Which leads us to our next. We have gratitude, we have responsibility. The next one is called endgame. Endgame is what are you living your life for? Stephen Covey wrote a book, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. It's a business book. Now, like any business book, his number 2 is start with the end game in mind. Being a business book, you think, okay, it's a business book, start with it. If I'm gonna start a business, what am I gonna do with it? Am I gonna sell it? Am I gonna go public? Do I wanna give it to my kids? How do I wanna close my business up when I get the later years of my life? But he doesn't mean that. What he means, start with the end game in mind. When you live your life, make your decisions based on what people would say about you at your funeral. That's pretty deep. Can you imagine living your life like that? Every decision you did was like, oh my gosh, if I do this, it won't be so looked upon me so well. But if I do this, it'll make me look great, right? Make every decision based on what people are going to say at your funeral. When someone is on their deathbed, it is unlikely they're going to ask for a hamburger and Coke and French fries. Most likely, or a replay of the New England Patriots Giants Super Bowl from 2007 when New England was 17-0, they lost to the Giants when Plaxico Burress caught a touchdown pass. And David Tyree caught the ball on his head. Eli Manning, right? No, they're not going to ask for that. They're going to ask time with their loved ones because the most important thing we need in our life is meaning and purpose. Purpose being forward-looking. When you have purpose, that creates meaning in your life. When you have meaning, that means you have a purpose. So having the purpose is the most important thing in life. Of course, on your deathbed, if you're in pain, you might want morphine and ice chips. But besides that, time with your loved ones is the most important thing. Because in life, you want to aspire to inspire before you expire. Thank you very much. I'll be here every week. You want to aspire to inspire before you expire. Get that one? Hey. What's up? Abraham, there's something called the 10 tests of Abraham. And, there's a machlokas, there's an argument whether or not which tests are what we consider a test. The first test being leaving his land, the last test being the Akedah when he had to sacrifice his son, attempt to sacrifice his son. But I always ask this question. It's a very common question in Torah. Like, why 10 tests? I mean, Abraham was asked to bow down to idols. And he wouldn't do it. He had King Nimrod said, you bow down to idols, you go into this fiery furnace. So Abraham said, I'm not bowing down to idols. And he went into the fiery furnace. He went to a furnace for like 3 days. Like, why 10 tests? Why does someone have to have 10 tests in their life? Isn't that a test enough? Isn't going to a fiery furnace enough of a test for someone to live their life that they're not willing to do something? Why 10 tests? So the answer is, Abraham was willing to die as a Jew. The other 9 tests, so he could live as a Jew. Instead of dying for what you believe in, live for what you believe in. And that's the end game. I have this whole thing in my marriage talk called the infinite marriage matrix. You can call it infinite matrix, whatever. It's from Simon Sinek. He wrote a book called The Infinite Game. And it's been a big change in my life having this, because every decision I make in my life is with the end game in mind. And I'm not just thinking of my end game. I'm talking about my wife, my kids, my grandkids, whatever it is. You know, those of you here are my students at Aish Torah, you know this is how I live my life. Every decision I make, if I yell at my wife or yell at my kids or do something, that's going to say, oh, it's okay to yell, it's okay to do this, it's okay to lie, it's okay to fight, it's okay to do things. And I don't want them to have this attitude. So I live my life with the infinite marriage matrix. Means every decision I make in my life, my family's life, not just my family, my students, my business partners, whatever it is, I want this decisions I make in my life to affect not just my generation, but the next generation, and next generation, and so on and so on and so on. And that's how I live with my end game. And it's been a game changer in my family. I got to tell you, talking to my wife, I have this whole new thing in my infinite marriage matrix. It's called compliment, don't criticize. Compliment, don't criticize. Some of you guys have heard this. Because now I don't criticize anymore. Because criticize it takes away the relationship. It wears down the love. It takes away your personal connection to somebody. It takes away your relationship. But when you compliment someone, I mean, who here wants to be criticized, right? Don't you like compliments? Your dress looks great. I love your hair. I love that necklace. I love the school you're at. I love your beard. It's really thick. I love your smile. It's wonderful. I can't smile without you. It's beautiful. So I live with the end game in mind. I know someone I'm not going to say where, because this is being posted live, who nags. They nag all the time. They're always nagging. And one of their kids said to them, I wish you would be a hugger and not a bugger, right? Because they're nagging all the time, and that doesn't help to build relationships. And that doesn't help make you great. So we have gratitude, who you're really thanking, responsibility, not who's they, but if you have the ability, you should be responding. Don't just say who's they. Take responsibility for not just the Jewish people, for everything you see, and live your life with the end game. Aspire to inspire before you expire. There you go. Okay. Now we're on to awesome. G-R-E-A-T. G-R-E-A-T. We're now on awesome. The reason I call it awesome, because you guys are really awesome. I mean, the fact that God put you here in this earth, the fact you were born, when you were born, God wrote you a check. Everybody's check is different. Yours might be 5,000, yours might be 10,000, yours might be 100,000, but our job in life is to cash our check. You would never go to a bank with a $5,000 check and say, just give me $4,000, that's enough. That's crazy. Your goal in life is to reach your potential and be as great as you can, and you want to reach your potential. When you were born, God wrote notes about you. Of all the great things you did, you can do, you will do. The problem is when you die and you go to heaven and you see those notes, if you did not even come close to reaching potential, you're going to read about things you could have done. You could have built great companies. You could have stopped warring countries. You could have learned all the shots. You could have so many things that you didn't do. That's one of the worst feelings. In fact, one of the worst feelings is regret. If not something, there's two kinds of regret. There's regret on something you tried and regret on something you didn't try. A regret of things you tried, it's regret. You can handle it. You tried it. You failed. Whatever it is, you have regret. You failed. But the regret of something you didn't try is the worst kind of regret. Going through life not trying something because you were scared, you were afraid of losing, whatever it is, that is the worst kind of you can have in the world. So I want to know that you guys are already awesome. Right now, if you make $30,000 a year, you are in the top 1% of wealth in the world. Do you know that? If you make $30,000 a year, you are top 1% of wealth in the world. And now with many cities having $15 an hour minimum wage. I don't know if that's nationwide yet or not. I'm not sure. That means you work at McDonald's $15 an hour. You're making $30,000 a year. You're in the top 1% of wealth in the world. You also won the biggest race in the world. And it's not the New York City Marathon. When you were born, your egg and your dad's cell, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of cells, maybe even a billion, that had to reach for your mom's egg. And yours happened to win. If it wasn't that cell that beat every other cell out, it wouldn't be you here. It'd be your brother, your sister, or maybe somebody else, maybe nobody else. You already here is a miracle in itself. That's pretty awesome. King David and Carl Sagan had an argument. King David lived over 3,000 years ago. Carl Sagan died, I think, in the 1990s. Carl Sagan was a famous scientist. He had TV shows in the 1970s, 80s, very, very popular. Carl Sagan says, he's an astronomer, he said that the chance of he said, due to his calculations, he believes that there's about 1 million other life forms in this universe. That could be right. We don't know. We have no idea. King David, who lived 3,000 years before him, said, no, we're the only reason for creation. The reason that God created the universe was just for us. Right? And Carl Sagan says, if that's the case, what a waste of space. Right? But imagine someone buys you a Tiffany bracelet or a Tiffany watch, and it comes in the mail. It's a big, giant box. You open it up, and you have all this fluffy stuff inside. You open it up, it's a smaller box, fluffy stuff inside, a smaller box, and there's a little tiny felt pouch, and that felt pouch is your bracelet or watch. You think to yourself, what a bunch of waste of space for just a tiny gift. But that's how important we are as people. Thriving in life comes from striving to be our best, not just surviving. We are human beings, not human doings. The Torah says, let us make man in our image. I know some commentators say that's God talking to the angels. But Rabbi Soloveitchik says, no, that's God talking to us. Let us make man in our image. What do you want your image to be? You have a say in your image. We are not born complete. Our job in life is to complete ourselves. You know how we know? When Adam ate from the tree of knowledge, the tree of life and good and bad. The tree of knowledge. He ate. Good and bad came down in the world. We call this Tov and Ra. We translate Tov and Ra as good and bad, but guess what? It really means complete and incomplete. Finished and unfinished. I talked about that today. That's where it came from, Rabbi Dubov. He has this whole worksheet on where this comes from. And it really makes a lot of sense that our job in life is to finish ourselves. Animals come out of the womb, a deer is born, right? It comes out of the womb like this, it comes out like this, and like 3 minutes later, it's chasing berries, or it's running around, getting berries, right? It's done. The deer is not thinking to herself, you know what? I really want to get my PhD, right? Chickens aren't thinking to themselves, you know what? I want to run for Congress. Chimpanzees aren't thinking to themselves, I really want to go to college. They're done. They're finished. They have instinct. They live on instinct. We have instinct, but our job is to control our instinct. That is our id. Remember, we don't want to be an id Jew. We want to be a yid Jew, right? That our job in life is to complete ourselves as a person, and it's by controlling our instincts. Every pen in the world can do the same thing. A pen right here. Show me 2 or 3. By the way, this comes from Yaakov's father, Rabbi Bars. Every single pen can do the same thing. Every single cheetah can chase down an elk. Every single chicken makes chicken nuggets. Like, they all do the same thing, right? they all can do the same thing. But we're different. We all have so many, if NASA wants to send a spaceship to Mars, a spaceship to the moon, they have to, the astronaut has to, train for many, many years, has to be really smart and very fit. You can't just send anybody. We all have different skill sets. Now, there's the people that do, my father-in-law, who is the NASA scientist, who's the rocket scientist, figures out it's called the ephemeroids. It's how the orbit of the spaceships, right? And there's people that work on the spaceships, and there's engineers that work on the engines, and engineers that work on the launch pad. Everyone's got their own different jobs. Animals aren't like that. And our job is to complete ourselves as people. Our job is life to choose like an animal, live on instinct. Our choose to be like a human and control our instincts. My father and my father-in-law worked on the Hubble space mission. Hubble went up, I don't know, I think early 1990s. And when the Hubble got up to space, it was a satellite that was supposed to see into the outer depths of the universe. It sent back pictures that were completely blurry. My father-in-law said that they had a number of instruments that would measure the mirror. And there was one instrument that had a washer put in upside down. And because that washer was put in upside down, it gave the wrong reading for the mirror, and the mirror went up incorrect. Think about this. If one little washer can make a mistake, and affect billions of dollars and many years of NASA's science work in space, how much would it help if you just turned the washer upside down, put it on correctly, and you wouldn't have had those problems? It's kind of like the same thing, like a rocket going into space, sending up to some other galaxy, and you put the coordinates in, and the rocket's off by like a centimeter. You're not going to notice that rocket ship off when it leaves Earth's orbit. You're not going to notice it when it passes the moon or goes into our solar system. But a few million miles later, you're going to notice that that rocket's off not just a little bit, but a ton. In fact, it's not even close to its destination, which means if you can make one little small change in your life now, it can have a major effect in your life many, many, many years later. Hubble can see into the past, but we can change our future. And I want you to understand, greatness comes from making small changes now, which affect you many, many, many years down the road. Okay, that's awesome. We have gratitude, responsibility, endgame, awesome, and last is Torah. Torah is not all or nothing. It's our instruction manual for life. We're the most unbelievable beings in this universe. And do you think it's possible that God made us without giving us an instruction manual? I mean, the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter is one of the most expensive planes in the world. It costs $2 billion each to develop with the production costs and development costs. $2 billion each. If you put that plane on the runway and you sit yourself down in the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter and you don't know how to fly it, what's it worth? Nothing. God gave us seichel, He gave us thinking, He gave us emotions, He gave us intellect, He gave us physicality, He gave us spirituality if you want to grasp onto it. If you don't know how to use your body properly, use your emotions properly, use your intellect properly, you're basically wasting your life. Everything in life is hard. When I moved from America to Israel, and I come here and I complain that this is hard, that's hard, I can't talk to the government people, I can't talk to the people that shook, they're ripping me off all the time, it's hard. And my wife says to me, you forget that when you were back in America, there were things that were hard. It's hard to be poor. You can't pay your bills. It's hard to be wealthy because you have to, be very frugal. It's hard to be fat because you feel miserable. It's hard to be skinny because you don't watch what you eat. It's hard to work for yourself. It's hard to make your own company. Everything in life is hard. You just have to choose your hard. And the Torah helps us. It helps us to reach our pension. It helps us to have our greatness. It helps us to be able to do things that Yehudas did. That's something that we can't even imagine, cutting a guy's head off. You don't think about that. Cutting a person's head off? That's crazy. But how do we get there? We have to understand that we have something in our life, our body, our ego, and our soul. This, too, is another acronym. Because in life, you want to be your best. And the best stands for body, because your body wants to do what feels good. Every decision you make in your life, does this make me feel good? And you'll make the choice based on that decision. Does it bring me more physical pleasure? That's your body. And then the E of best is your ego, because your ego makes a decision is basically, does this make me look good? Do I want to buy this suit because it makes me look good? Do I want to drive this car because it makes me look good? What's the difference between buying a used Honda and a brand new BMW? It's your ego. It's nice to have a nice car, but the point of a car is to get from point A to point B. BMW does it maybe a little faster, a little nicer, but a three-year-old Honda does it just as well and maybe more reliable and a lot less money. I asked my students, would you buy an Armani suit for $3,000 if you knew no one's going to wear you, if no one's going to see you wear it? You probably wouldn't, right? Because that's your ego. It's our low self-esteem. We do things to bring our self-esteem up. And the S is our soul. Our soul wants to make decisions that are good. Our body makes decisions that feel good. Our ego makes decisions that make us look good. And our soul makes decisions that are good. And the T of best is a test that we live with every day of our life. Every day we live this test between our body, ego, and our soul. How do you explain the body-soul relationship? That's the big thing. So I have 3 examples. Imagine you're inviting your friend Joey out for football. You're watching the Super Bowl, right? You invite your friends over to watch the game. Joey comes in the house. Hey, where's the beer? It's in the refrigerator. Joey goes in the refrigerator, grabs the beer, pops open the beer, chugs it down, collapses on the floor with a major heart attack. Joey, what's going on? 911. Hey, my friend's passed out. He comes. 911 comes. The ambulance comes. They do CPR. They do the what's that called? Defibrillator, right? The defibrillator. Joey's dead. They said we can't save him. No, Joey's gone. Oh my gosh, Joey's gone. We're going to take him to the morgue. We're not taking him to the hospital. Then your friend Sam walks in. Sam goes, what's going on? Joey's gone. Sam's like, what do you mean Joey's gone? He's in the kitchen. He had a heart attack. He died. Sam goes in the kitchen, sees Joey lying on the floor, and Sam says, Joey's not gone. Joey's right there. Like, no, Joey, he died. He has a heart attack. They're taking him to the morgue right now. He's dead. He's not breathing. He's done. He's dead. Sam says, Joey's not dead. Joey's not gone. Joey's right there. Is Joey there or not there? Joey's there? His body's there, but Joey's not there. Joey's the guy that died. What is Joey? Right, is he a body? Is he a soul? Do you understand? Scenario number 1. Scenario number 2. Order big apple pizza, right? I like big apple pizza. I order 3 slices of pizza. And there's a 4th slice sitting there, black olives and mushroom. I love the black olive mushroom pizza, right? I eat 3 slices. I'm full. But there's 1 slice sitting there. I'm like, you know this battle. I can't be the only one that has this battle. Like, do I eat that last slice of pizza, or do I leave it sit there, right? My kids will eat it the next day. What do you do? Right, you do, right? Why? But you're full already. Don't give up. Who's gonna eat the 4th slice? Guys, girls, gonna eat the 4th slice? Some of you will? Okay. What happens when you eat the 4th slice? It feels good for like what? A minute? What do you feel like after you eat the 4th slice? Disgusting. What happened? You want the 4th slice? You feel disgusting. Not only you feel disgusting, now you wake up in the morning like, oh my gosh, I couldn't eat that 4th slice of pizza last night. Now I gotta run an extra 3 miles today. I'm a fat pig. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like this is the problem you have. You listen to your body, not your soul. Your body felt good for 1 minute, but your soul feels miserable for days. That's scenario number 2. Body feels miserable. Your soul, both of you feel miserable. Your soul feels miserable, your body feels miserable. You both do. Because your body went out of your soul. Scenario number 3. I ran a 10-mile race called the Army 10-Mile in D.C. I did it twice. It's a long way. I mean, it's not like, I'm not like an athlete. I run some 10Ks occasionally, but 10 miles is a big distance. I finish the race. I go home. I eat 3 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, packed with peanut butter and jelly. 3 of them. I lie down on the couch for like 20 minutes. I'm getting caught in this thing here. I lie down for 20 minutes, and I get up, and my back hurts, my legs hurt, my feet hurt, I'm sweaty, I'm burnt. But how do I feel? Amazing. Why? Because I led with my soul over my body. Do you see the difference? When you leave your body or your soul in life, you won't reach your greatness. But when you control your instincts and have discipline and live with your soul over your body, that's where great things can happen. Because the exhilaration of a runner's high is where your body and soul are at peace together. It's called a runner's high. You're tired, you're exhausted, but your soul is so happy that your body feels good. You're able to run farther than you can ever think you can run. How are NFL players able to play in the freezing conditions when they play in Buffalo or Minneapolis in the wintertime? Well, Minneapolis has a dome. How do they do that? Adrenaline. They would do it for no money because they're leaving with their soul, not there, but they love the game of football. Not everyone would do it with their money. Someone on drugs for 6 months. You take drugs, you get high, do some cocaine, smoke some weed, do some other things, right? You feel good for like 20, whatever, how long it is. But you never see someone who's been taking drugs for 6 months saying, life is great. That doesn't happen. Because they're leading with their body over their soul. And when you want to be your best, you sometimes have to choose the hard. That's what Yehudis did. She chose her hard. And I'm going to end with one little idea. Because we're going to go back to gratitude. Because gratitude is one of the most important things in life. You want to reach your greatness, you need to have gratitude. And it's hard to understand real gratitude. Now I'm going to give you an example. Anyone here like music? Like, has a favorite singer? Anyone have a favorite singer they love? Anyone? Ed Sheeran? Any girls? Taylor Swift. Okay, we heard Taylor Swift. There you go. Where are you from? San Diego. Okay, imagine that San Diego local federation, let's just say, is gonna have a gala. And your local Chabad rabbi says, "Oh, I have tickets to this federation. By the way, Taylor Swift's gonna sing at this gala. You gonna go? You're gonna go. Of course, right. You love Taylor Swift. You love Taylor Swift, right? So you go there. So you get the ticket. You go to this place where they have probably named by a Jewish guy at some convention center, some performing arts hall. And there's a gala with a dinner and everything. And there's a receiving line, and in the line is the federation president, some of the big shots, and Taylor Swift. And she is shaking everyone's hands as they go into the event. And you notice her, and you're like so excited. You're gonna shake her hand. It's pretty exciting, isn't it? You're pretty excited, right? So like you're getting nervous, and you notice when she's shaking everyone's hand, she just like shakes her hand, she's just doing this to get paid, right? Whatever it is. She has no interest. And you're getting closer, and you're getting closer, and you're getting closer, like getting excited. I'm gonna shake Taylor Swift's hand. And you get up to there, and she shakes your hand, and she stops, and she looks at you, and she says, "What's your name?" Natalie? I love your earrings. And you're like, I love your earrings too. Where'd you get them? Well, I got them at Nordstrom's. They were on sale. And next thing you know, you're having a conversation with Taylor Swift. How do you feel? Amazing, right? Pretty good, right? She asked you a question, where you from? And next thing you know, everyone's online looking like, what's this girl? She must be friends with her. So how come Taylor Swift's talking to her, right? This makes no sense, right? It's a good story, isn't it, right? And I like, well, this makes no sense. So then she asks you where you're sitting. I'm saying it's a table. And she comes in, and you sit down at the table. She comes and sits next to you, and you're like, exchanging numbers and talking, like taking pictures together. You're just having the time of your life. Then she says, "I have to go up and sing." She goes on stage and sings a song, and she's doing like a Barbara Streisand ballad, "People, memories," and like she's singing on stage because I don't know Taylor Swift's song. Anyway, she's singing, and you're like, "Oh my gosh!" She comes back down. You give her a hug, and you go home that night. How do you feel? You're on top of the world, right? And you wake up in the morning, you feel on top of the world too. And for days, you feel amazing, because you hung out with Taylor Swift. 6 months later, February, it's cold outside, it's your birthday, you're going out with some friends. February? Yeah, I told you. I'm pretty good, right? 18th, 12th, 19th, right, 19th, yeah. So anyway, there's a knock on your door, UPS is there, and they bring you a box, and it says, in the box, "To Natalie from Taylor Swift." You're like, Taylor Swift sent me a present. You open it up, it's a big, beautiful, cashmere, what's your favorite color? Purple cashmere sweater. "To Natalie from Taylor Swift. Happy birthday." Pretty cool, huh? You put it on. It's cold outside. You put it on. You go out with your friends at night. You go to a restaurant. The maitre d' says to you, like, "Man, that is a gorgeous sweater." "The sweater? Taylor Swift gave it to me." "No, yeah, really? Whoa, what did you have to get?" "Remember Taylor Swift came to the Federation last 6 months ago, and I met her. We had a talk. Remember she sang on stage, people, and she talked. Remember that?" And like, "Oh my gosh." And the waiter says to you, "Ma'am, that was a really nice sweater." You're like, "Taylor Swift gave it to me." He goes, "No, yeah, really? No, seriously, everywhere you go to a bar, you go to movies, everywhere you go, people are commenting on that sweater, and you're fired up. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Love this music. Taylor Swift is not. Anyway. I don't know why the music came on. Anyway, we're going to keep going. This story did not happen. Sorry to tell you. It's not the truth. What really happened, it's your birthday, and you're going out at night, right? You're going out at night, and it's cold outside. So you look in your closet, and you see this beautiful purple cashmere sweater. You have no idea where it came from. You're like, I think my brother's friend left it here, or my aunt was here. I don't know. I'm not really supposed to sing. Yeah, okay, Taylor Swift. She can't turn it off? Huh? You just, oh, you know what? Can you unplug it? Can you unplug it? Where's the music coming? Is it top speaker? Okay, try another plug. There we go. Okay, thank you. What's your name? Mayor rocks. Mayor rocks. Back to Taylor Swift sweater. This didn't happen. It's your birthday. It's cold outside. You need a sweater. You look in your closet, you see a sweater. It's a beautiful purple cashmere sweater, and you have no idea where it came from. You put it on, you go out at night. The maitre d' says to you, ma'am, that is a beautiful sweater. You say, oh, thank you very much. The waiter says to you, that's a beautiful sweater. Oh, thank you. I just found it in my closet. Everywhere you go, people comment how beautiful the sweater is. And everywhere you go, you comment, yeah, I just don't know where it came from. Which sweater, Natalie, would you rather wear? Why? Because the reason that Natalie says she'd rather wear Taylor Swift's sweater. By the way, it's the same exact sweater as the one that you found in your closet. Same exact sweater. The reason why Natalie would rather wear a Taylor Swift sweater, because she knows where it came from. That's it. She loves Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift loves her. God loves you, and hopefully you love God. Because the greatest transformation that you can make in your life is when you believe in yourself as much as God believes in you. That is real gratitude. You think Yehudis, the daughter of Kohen Gadol, she had gratitude? Oh my gosh, we can't even imagine the gratitude she had. Do you think she took responsibility for the Jewish people by going to a camp of a general and cutting his head off and saving the Jewish people from destruction? Do you think she was the one responsible? Do you think she was, yeah, I'm responsible for the killing of generals? No, she took responsibility where no one else took it. She didn't say who's they. She said, I'm taking responsibility for the Jewish people and doing something else. Because no one, you can't rely on anybody else. You're going to rely on like the Arabs or the Syrians. Like, no, you can't rely on anybody else. So she did something about it. She knows she's doing something for the end game. She's thinking in her life, you know what? I'm making a decision in my life that is not just for now, but it's for generations later and later and later. Every decision I make in my life is, I'm thinking of the marriage matrix. How is my decision now going to affect my kids and my grandkids? And she knows she was awesome. If you have that strength inside of you to keep going to the general's camp, your enemy camp, and make this move, it would take many, many days. You have to really know you're awesome. And finally, Torah. She didn't live by her instinct. She wasn't a Yid Jew. She was a Yid Jew. She understood what it meant to be great. She understood that she has to go beyond her instincts, put her instincts aside, and live by her soul instead of her body and her ego. It would have been much easier if she could just stay at home and take a bath and not worry about it, let the Jewish people destroy it. But she wasn't willing to do that because she wanted to be great. Because the greatest transformation we can make in our lives is when you believe in yourself as much as God believes in you. And that comes from understanding that everything you have in your life is just like Taylor Swift's sweater. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for coming. Once again, I want to remind you that Coach's books are on sale on Amazon for totally free for the online versions. So you can find 3 of them under Daniel Ratner and 1 of them under Coach Ratner. They're great books. You'll learn a lot from them. All we ask is that you leave a comment. Also, make sure you subscribe to the Living in Clarity podcast. And if you want to see more of Coach, you can see him on this Sunday. At what time? Sunday at 11 a.m. at Essentials at Aish. Great classes. 4 phases of love. So don't miss that if you can make it. If you're not already a student, you don't hear him every day, come to the Essentials classes. He teaches quite frequently. You can find the schedule on aish.com and coachratner.com. Great. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. We'll see you next month.